My name is Jeff Fritz. I'm going to talk to you today about WCF in containers, okay? WCF and microservices, that seems kind of like an oxymoron, right? This is a framework that's been around for how long? And we're going to create microservices out of this thing that's huge and runs on .NET Framework, and then we're going to put them in containers. I thought containers were these small things that were VM-like, right? Let's see how easy it is to make this happen. It's actually pretty cool, and my presenter wand isn't working. We'll do this the old-fashioned way. There we go. So, why put a WCF service in a container? Well, since Windows containers are now available, you can run them in Windows Server 2016. You can run them in debug mode on Windows 10. Hey, you can get the slides later. I'll have them available from a GitHub resource, okay? Cool. Service endpoints are really easy to configure with code. We've known this with WCF for years, right? This is the problem with the WCF framework, is that you have these massive configuration files to configure every little thing about your host and what communication protocols you're using and formatting, all that stuff. Well, now we can do that with our containers also, so we can configure the entire pipeline with code. So that's pretty cool. That makes it easy to set up, replicate, and make many of these services much more easily and quicker than with VMs. We can reduce or eliminate the maintenance of virtual machines. Isn't it a pain in the neck when you have to take a VM down for Patch Tuesday? Don't want to do that. It'd be much easier if we had a container that we can spin up and just have the next version of Windows with whatever patches need to be applied and knock down the other containers that we have, so you don't run into this maintenance quandary that you have with VMs. And containers better support service-oriented architectures. There's a tremendous benefit to containers because you can spin these up so much more quickly than a VM. They start almost like a process. They run on top of that hypervisor inside of Windows, so you end up with a much, much faster, better performing experience, and they're very easy for you to maintain. Yep, this isn't working. Oh no, there we go. What is supported? So with WCF right now, we're kind of constrained a little bit by what features we have inside of Windows containers. So a Windows container only supports certain things. Right now we can only support HTTP endpoints with our WCF services, but a lot of people use that with WCF, so we're pretty confident that there's a good install base that'll use that. You can IIS host or self-host inside of a container. That's pretty cool. I don't have to worry about all the overhead of a full web server if I don't need it. I can just run a little console exe that'll host my service if I'd like. And anonymous access endpoints. Containers with Windows Server Core don't support security and integration with Active Directory just yet. So we need to be anonymous when we're accessing those endpoints. All right, enough talk. Let's get to the real show. And let's look at the demo. Right, because you want to see how this works. It's one thing for me to sit here and say, yeah, you can do it. Let's actually do it. Now, I've gone extremely simple with my service configurations here. Do we have it up on the screen? Good. So I have two different demos here. I have a self-hosted demo and I have an IIS-hosted demo. Let me show you the self-hosted demo first. I have a very simple service that I defined, and I just went and got literally file new, add a service, and I've got hello and return a value. Okay, I'm going to get data, and inside of my service, I'm just going to return whatever data it is that you requested, okay? Very simple. I'm not demonstrating WCF, I'm demonstrating the container capabilities here. My self-hosted console application, start up a new service host, open the host, write out that we're listening, and then sleep. We don't actually want to stop the service because the Docker container will do that for us, right? Containers we want to manage like farm animals. We want to herd them around, and we want to be able to knock them down easily. So we don't want to actually have this process stop until the container is stopped. So I only have the host close happen all the way at the very end after the container. It shouldn't actually ever fire this, but if something bad happens, it'll close the host if there's an error, but the container should be the one that actually shuts down my service. Very simple client that references that one service. I'm saying, hello, WCF client. I'm going to go get that, and then I'm going to return my data. Simple. Now, I've put them inside of a Docker container, my service inside of a Docker container. This is what that Docker file looks like. And it doesn't get too much simpler than this. We're using our Microsoft WCF Docker image. I create a working directory right off the root called self-hosted. I'm going to listen on port 83, and then I'm going to copy everything that I built for my service from my debug folder into that self-hosted folder, and then I've got an entry point that says start my self-hosted exe service. Have you guys worked with Docker containers before? Are you familiar with the syntax going on here? No. Yeah, I see some people nodding, but I see more people saying no. The Docker file syntax, real easy to follow. You can go find out the exact syntax for this if you go to Docker's website. We've actually got tooling built into Visual Studio that will give you type ahead for Docker, okay? So that's kind of cool if you need help with it. We do have other features in Visual Studio to help you start up and get Docker containers running, but for WCF, because it's a little bit different than just an ASP.NET application or an ASP.NET Core application, I recommend that you build your own Docker files for them and then run outside of Visual Studio when you're ready to deploy. So I've already built this Docker image for us. So if I look at my Docker images, you can see it is right there. Self-hosted. And another thing about Windows containers, you're literally running full version of Windows on this, okay? It is a 10 gig image that you're layering on top of. Now that's the way it is right now. We've taken some advances and they're getting smaller and smaller as we start to prune and compress down those images, but these are going to be big images that you're passing around. So let me start that self-hosted container. So I've actually written a couple of little scripts here to do this for me. So I'm just going to run it. And this executes the command docker run itd, so interactive with a terminal if I need to connect to it, and disconnect it, so run as a service. I'm going to listen on port 83 on localhost and pass it through to port 83 inside of my service in the container. I'm going to name my container WCF, and I'm using my self-hosted image. Notice it takes just a little bit to get this up and running because it is booting Windows. When it's done, this huge hash here, that SHA hash, is actually the internal ID of the Docker container that's running. But in just a second here, we'll see, it'll return control to me and I'll have an entry here on the command line that I can start working with again. I should get it back. There we go. Timeout. Try this one more time. Nope. It should return pretty quick. There we go. Now, you can't connect to that container because it's actually listening on another IP address because there's a network address translation layer in effect here, okay? There's a NAT, so we need to actually give it the IP address that the container is using inside of Docker. So I need to grab that. I have a command all queued up. Docker inspect-f, and then I go find the IP address from my WCF container, and here it is, it's 172.24. Let me grab that, and I will paste it into my client, right here where you would have it for your endpoint, just like any other WCF client. I'll paste it in, save, and now let me run my client, set that as the startup, and away we go. So it's going to build, and now it's connecting into that container. and it's going to run my code, and it came back very simple, okay? So for a deployment, right, not so much for debugging right now because we don't have that tooling experience set up for you, but for a deployment, this is something that you can set up in your VSTS continuous integration environment so that you can build your Docker containers, put that image into maybe Azure Container Registry, and then deploy many, many instances of these as needed. So that was real easy for me to do with self-hosted. Let me show you how we have the same experience for IIS hosted. So I'm going to shut down this instance of my container. So Docker RM, and that one's gone. For my IIS container, so I have IIS hosted. It's another very simple service with a get value operation contract. And all I'm going to do is respond with you requested whatever value. My Docker file for this, very, very similar to what I had before. I'm pulling from WCF. I'm going to create a working directory called WCF service test. I'm going to configure my IIS website. I need to do that with a little bit of PowerShell here, specify where it's located, and that it's listening on port 83. But after I'm done that, I'm exposing port 83, and I'm copying my application, my entire website, into the container. So very, very simple. The client that goes along with this, all it's doing is reaching out and saying, get value 123, okay? So the exact same concept. I have another endpoint that's sitting here pointing to that same service. I'll start up my container using very similar command that I had before. And like I said, I've just queued these up as batch commands so that you don't have to sit here and watch me type out the entire thing. Docker run, ITD, pushing through port 83. We're going to call it WCF. There it is running. And now I'll start this client. Now I have to wait for IIS to start up, and we'll get back. Actually, no, we won't get back. I missed something, and you didn't catch me on it. I didn't capture the IP address of this and pass it back into my client. So let me get that IP address. So it's living somewhere completely different, and these are random IP addresses that Docker assigns. So I need to assign that here, and now I can run my client, and it should find that IP address, connect in, and bring back my data. And there it is. You requested 123. Simple, not that complicated, but we've got the power of containers now that we can use with WCF. Now, I've been pointing to this WCF image. I want you to see what we've built on the Docker website and also where it comes from, so that if you are interested in contributing, if you want to give us some feedback, you can take a look into it. You can interact with us as we work to increase the capabilities, start adding more features into what this container can do. Out here on the Docker Hub, you can see we have two versions of it right now, a version for 4.7 and a version for 4.6.2 .NET Framework. There's instructions here about how to get started using the container. If you want, you can click through and you'll actually see where the Docker file images are. They're over here in GitHub because we're doing everything open source. We want to make sure that you see what's out here. You can even submit pull requests. There's a very similar set of instructions here that you can take a look at and follow up on. I've even got a full set of samples here that are very similar to what I just showed you, so that you can use the same strategies to get your existing services up and running if you'd like. Now that Docker file that WCF is using, it's based on this. And I just want you to take a quick look at this. It's based on .NET Framework 4.6.2, and it adds a couple of features by default into your application, into your container. And the first one it adds in is the web server. So if you don't want to use IIS, if you want to start to streamline things, and maybe you're not using some of the other features here. Maybe you're not using WebSockets. You can take the contents of this, streamline it to suit your needs, and build a Docker file that's more appropriate for your services. Okay, there's a lot of flexibility here, and we're trying to get our arms around what's the right level of granularity for features that we want to deliver as the everything in the kitchen sink feature set versus giving you the complete do-it-yourself experience. So we're trying to find a balance on that, and I'd love to hear your feedback if this is something that you think you can use with your services going forward. So that repository is Microsoft/WCF-Docker. And there's samples right up at the top, links off to them that'll show you how to get started using the container. So let me show you my wrap-up slides here. So my call to action. Check out installing Docker for Windows. It's real easy to install. You get the ability to run Docker on for Linux containers and for Windows containers. Runs great on Windows 10. It'll run on Windows 8. It'll even run with a little bit of tweaking on Windows 7. Grab that Microsoft WCF image. There's a little bit in there. It's built out. It'll take a little bit of time to download, but it's built out with pretty broad set of features so you can get running self-hosted and IIS hosted. And try lifting and shifting an existing service into the container and see if it makes sense for you. I would love to hear your feedback as to what works and what doesn't work. Okay? Directions are at github.com, Microsoft, WCF-Docker. This session is being recorded. You'll be able to replay it on Channel 9 if you'd like. We're going to have more information about WCF and containers and how you do microservices, all available on Microsoft Virtual Academy Online. My name is Jeff Fritz. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Drop me a line on Twitter. I am C#Fritz. All right? I hope you have a great Ignite. I'll catch you next time.